Every time I leave Ithaca, it seems to be raining. I always think that it means something, but in reality, I guess that it's just rain. This is not really the beginning, but a time of juxtaposition between two places in life. This trip is kind of a last-minute decision. I was planning to go to the Middle East before I suddenly changed my mind. I couldn't tell you what's giving me the drive to start the car and back away from the house, but I am. For the majority of my life, the only name I knew was Sarah. I became known as Kessler, Jihei, and a whole slew of other nicknames over the years. But still, there is one name that I can never get away from remembering. Somewhere, there is someone who never forgot me as Kyung-Nhu. Maybe that's what gives me my courage.
Are you still shooting? You should stop. We have a long way to go. Kind of excited to go to Korea. Kind of scared. Because I'm not really Korean.
This is just a normal drive to the airport, back and forth between JFK and home. I've done this so many times, yet somehow I just keep talking.
I'm just impatient. I don't like traffic.
I guess I'm nervous because the camera is so close to my face. I should be used to it though. Even the lights are orange here. It's strange how everything reminds me of that documentary production. I've found many physical beauties in the world, but without genuine inner beauty, they were all comparable to good pictures to hang above my couch. I can truly say that my first summer in Ithaca was gorgeous. Seeing the waterfalls, the gorges, and breathing in the clean air. I was given an opportunity to wash away the finer pains of life, to start down the path to become someone that any mother would be proud of her daughter for becoming.
Ithaca has many facets, and many people look at our beauty, our topography, our lakes, our hills, our gorges, and it's a tourist destination because of the beauty and along the lake. And people look at it as an education area because of Ithaca College, Cornell University, and Tompkins Cortland Community College as well. So it's known for its education. Many people look at it as an area for arts and culture and a place of alternative ideas and different kinds of thinking.
It's felt like years since I sat by these fountains, thinking about which major I should add or drop and how I would change the world. Ithaca College has grown from a music conservatory in 1892 to become one of the best comprehensive learning colleges on the East Coast. Along with students of all disciplines, I was especially drawn to Ithaca College's pre-professional programs.
My best guess is that it's the schools that bring the people here, the Asians here, because the schools are great. You know, bigger cities may be daunting, and this is a very manageable, nice place to live.
We have two sets of colleges that are excellent, and academic freedom leads to intellectual and social freedom most of the time. And because of that kind of spirit, you saw people much more willing to accept people in the city of Ithaca as compared to bigger cities.
A university so large that it has its own zip code. Over 20,000 students attend Cornell University each year, with over 5,000 international students from Asia and Asian American students. From maintaining the world-renowned Hotel Management School to the largest Asian and Asian American Studies library in the nation, Cornell University continues to be a crucial part of life in Ithaca. Between the two hills is a city full of diversity in many forms. A typical college town would be limited to pizza and wings, but Ithaca's sense of internationalism brings cuisines from every corner of the world. One of the most common ways to celebrate culture is through food, making it no surprise that Ithaca has more restaurants per capita than all of New York City. From businesses to cultural community centers, education to politics, Ithaca keeps its values of diversity a strong part of its collective identity.
The reason we have Japanese food at the farmers market in Ithaca is because our community is so diverse that unlike a few miles away from here, people have eaten sushi. A lot of the customers have been to Japan or have taught in Japan or are married to someone Japanese.
Culturally, I think this is a very good place because Ithaca is a diversity, there are different kind of community here, and from my experience, it's a very good one. We have a Namgyal monastery in Ithaca. It's a Tibetan Buddhist temple, even though it's a what called Tibetan and Buddhist Institute. They also serve as a cultural center for Tibetan community.
One idea that I have as mayor and as the city council also agrees with is to keep issues and discussions of race and cultural diversity as a constant. Often what we see is there's very little discussion and something bad happens, and then there's a lot of activity and discussion and meetings, and then it goes away again for a while. And I think there's a learning experience in the sense for people to understand what some people in our community do go through, and to keep that forward in our consciousness and not just talk about those issues when there's a problem in our community. And that will take years of commitment and working together, and that will certainly keep these issues in our forefront.
In 1977, representatives of New York and California introduced a House resolution that proclaimed the first 10 days of May as Asian Pacific Heritage Week, later expanding to a month-long commemoration. Now, in 2005, Mayor Peterson and the Ithaca City Council officially declared May as the Asian American Heritage Month in the city of Ithaca. It is this kind of recognition for multiculturalism that gives dual meaning behind the slogan, Ithaca is gorgeous.
To say that, yes, we are a vibrant part of this community and we enjoy being here and we will continue to contribute in the most positive way. Thank you for having us here.
In working on this documentary, my friend Katie and I discovered that the history behind this momentous event is much deeper than we had predicted. The city of Ithaca and international Asian communities began their friendships early at the turn of the 20th century, starting with Japanese students to Cornell University.
The document you went to see in City Hall was left here in 1908. The Japanese were interested in discovering markets in this country and were sending a trade delegation to the United States. And the second thing was, the one person all the Japanese knew in this country was the Reverend William Elliott Griffiths. And Griffiths was a magnet for any traveling Japanese. And so this trade delegation came. Did this do any good for their trade or ours? Well, I rather doubt it. But it was an interesting episode.
The first settled Asian to come to Ithaca came for exactly what so many come for today, education. In 1870, a young Japanese man by the name of Kanai Nagasawa came as part of the Fountain Grove grape growers. Despite this business partnership, Kanai's real motivation for coming to Ithaca was to study at Cornell University for agriculture.
Following our first Japanese, there were at least 17 other Japanese who came to Ithaca to study at Cornell. But around 1900, there was an influx of another very interesting group of people. and that's Chinese students who came to this country mostly as Boxer Indemnity students. And a great number of Chinese students came to Cornell because of the practical education they could get here. We do know that by 1888, there were 2 Chinese men in town. They were unmarried. They said their religion was Confucian, and they ran a laundry. Stayed until 1916, and I don't know what happens to him after that, but he did run what was called the Chinese laundry in town. Ithaca is a small community that has been a refuge community in a lot of ways. So after the Vietnamese War, there were church groups here who brought Vietnamese here and supported them. The same thing has happened with Central Americans and with Cambodians and a number of different groups. And of course, today we have a Tibetan monastery in town. And again, it's because of this cosmopolitan quality in a small place, the ability for people who have professions to use them here. And I think people have found it an easy place to work because of the diversity of the population.
The history combined with the constantly growing population of Asians in Ithaca creates that feeling of refuge that Carol talks about. From school opportunities to economic pursuits, Ithaca has provided an interesting backdrop for all kinds of settlers. By the 1920s, there was a small community of Asian international students, but there were no Asians listed in the census for Tompkins County. A few students and business people came in after the 1920s, but there was not a large boom in international students after World War II. By the 1980s, 647 Asians were recorded in the national census. In more recent times, the population of Asians explodes to 3,955 by 1990. By 2000, the numbers double again to 6,943, making up over 10% of the total population in Tompkins County. Like any other group of settlers in a new area, the Asian communities began their own traditions that created the vibrant and cultured life that we see today. Many of these included Lunar New Year celebrations, community centers, and cultural festivals for the whole Ithacan community, including the newest addition, the Dragon Boat Festival. One day, I was recruited for the Ithaca Dragon Boat Club. When I asked the recruiter what Dragon Boat was, he replied, "It's like rowing in a really big canoe." So I thought that I would check out these really big canoes. After a few paddling lessons and practices, we prepared for our first race in Ithaca. Dragon boat racing will always be a symbol of its origins, Chinese culture, and spirit. In the beginning, the Chinese believed that dragon boat racing would ensure blessings from the gods for bountiful crops. Now, 2,000 years later, the Pan-Asian Dragon Boat Race celebration has come to symbolize humanity's struggle and the strength of the community, including musical shows and other entertainment. In many dragon boat celebrations, some of the original Chinese rituals are still performed, like the awakening of the dragon by dotting the eyes of the dragon's head on each boat. This ceremony is conducted to cleanse and bless the area of the competition, the competitors, and their boats.
Scary looking.
The crowds no longer throw stones at the rival boats, and we no longer drown one person for luck as a sacrifice to the gods. Despite this, the spirit of Dragon Boat remains highly competitive, with community, collegiate, professional, and soon-to-be Olympic-level teams across the world. The symbolism of the first Dragon Boat race in Ithaca was in the back of our minds as we paddled up to speed to the starting buoy. Dragon Boat is no longer about traditional Chinese beliefs or human strife, but it has become a way to commemorate a collective history. Crossing the finish line for the first Dragon Boat race marks a change in our society, one that allows communities to explore their unique histories and memories.
Oh, this first time I hear from my son. Chuck never mentioned it to that day. He mentioned some kind of thing going on, celebrate Chinese New Year. And after that, I heard one Attica festival and took a day off and went down to the park. I see the Dragon Boat. I miss Hong Kong. I can go out late at night, then I can find something to eat. Then hang out with friends, go to the movie. It's not real quiet like here after 5 o'clock. Everything will quiet down. In Hong Kong, you don't. They're all 24 hours.
This is my mother's own country, and they still imprisoned her and told her she wasn't a citizen. I think it was terrible. You know, how people can say, well, just because you're different, this is it. You're a threat to us. Saying we're sorry. Now it's kind of late since most of those people are gone. Well, it happened, let's go on. Isn't it good enough for some of us? I don't think we need money. I just think it would be nice to hear it from people that really were in the wrong in the first place. But they're gone too, most of them that started all this. So, it's over now.
We were not welcome in a restaurant, and Keiko and I were wondering why, and they said because that's only for whites and that's for blacks. That was the first exposure that I had or witnessed to violence in the States. I didn't realize that there was so much poverty and discrimination in the States.
I do remember, I was very, very bonded to my brother. He was, my mother, my father, he was my entire family for most of my life in Korea. When we were at the orphanage, I remember he had climbed a tree and he broke his arm. And I just remember crying and crying and crying. It was just like, he was being very stoic. And I was the one who was like falling apart.
Well, after my mom died, my dad didn't really take care of us. I guess he took it kind of hard. Finally, he decided that he couldn't take care of us, so he took us to the orphanage, and we stayed there, and I didn't like it there. So we ran away a few times, but I made sure, we went together.
I do remember flying over and somebody opening a little piece of chocolate, the crinkly, before the plastic. Back when Jesus was a small child and dinosaurs roamed the earth, chocolate used to be wrapped in this little tiny aluminum foil, and I remember hearing the crinkling of the foil and piece being broken off. And I remember looking out a window and seeing like a patchwork quilt as we flew over, and I was heading to Denver.
First time when we escaped from Cambodia to Thailand, we not plan to come United States. We just plan to come looking for food. So when we got in the camp, I sell the food like this too. We tried to make food sell, something like that, and then my husband Bong, he tried to help organize or help for Red Cross, something like that, to feed the food. And later on, during the Thai and Vietnam, they're fighting in the border. So we ran over to the Thailand camp. And then he just to volunteer help in the camp. And finally we heard, they say, you want to go out third country? They say, third country, you can apply.
When we first attempted to leave, we were pretty much walking down country road, heading south. We're about less than probably 2 miles to the Thai border, Thai-Lao border. And my younger siblings and I were riding in the carriage, so to speak, drawn by water buffaloes or cows. And then I have aunts and uncles that also walked with us, but they walked. When the Border Patrol came up, they dashed into the woods. Finally, made another attempt through just crossing the Mekong River, carrying my little brother in my backpack, hiding behind banana trees and under banana leaves, crossing Mekong River at probably 2-3 a.m. in the morning on the canoes. Those experiences are experiences that are ingrained in me, and I will remember it as long as I live, and to the extent that I was even tempted to visit those points of where we crossed.
We have an incredible need to create divisions between the logical and the irrational. We need to create order. Memories, however, cannot be molded by our logic. How we choose which memories we keep is rather serendipitous, yet so powerful. These memories bond groups together, and they create walls between others. They shape how we see the world, how we see others, and how we see ourselves. Likewise, an absence of memory for some can stab deep into the heart.
We lived pretty much on the north side housing complex, public housing on Madison and Hancock. And it's basically 4 or 5 short blocks to school. 5-6 short blocks meant miles to us. Miles to the extent that we were harassed, we were verbally abused, we were assaulted physically on the way there and on the way back. So that happened for quite some time. My parents did not know until many, many occasions later when they asked, why do we come home crying? You know, it's not just one person crying, it's my brother, myself, my sister, and bruises to the face, the cheeks, the elbows, to the side. They can be very furious about it, but not having that English proficiency meant that they cannot verbalize it. They can verbalize in their own language, but who's there to interpret?
I think I kind of like isolated a lot because I had trouble identifying with, what was, good question. I haven't really thought about this in a while, so it's also very late in the day and I'm tired. I guess I just felt really, I kind of isolated a lot, when I was a kid because I had trouble identifying with, or I felt like inside that I wasn't like everybody else. When in fact, that's a total lie. But yeah, I don't really know quite how to. I felt definitely like an outsider, kind of looking in. If I'd get mad about something, that was like, well, he called me this, or people would say, don't take it personally, and it was really hard not to when I was the only Asian.
제일 힘들었던 거라면은 말이 굉장히 좀 뭐랄까 말 못하면 병신 취급받아요. 말을 할 줄 알아야 돼. 학교도 밤낮으로 많이 다녔어요, 저요. 지금도 멀었지만은 그 영어라는 게 그리 쉬운 게 아니더라고요. 지금도 뭐 멀었어요. Every day, learning every day.
Okay, I got a problem the first time at 82 when I got in Ithaca. We had appointment with the doctor, my primary doctor named Selish. The first time he will allow us, my husband and I, the kid, not to meet him because he said, if you had no translator, don't come to meet me, I don't have time to explain. Later on, I went to school, then I just studied, and then I took care of myself. I went to meet doctor. Doctor said, I understand you now. And then later on, a refugee came after me. They need me to translate for the woman problem. So I took all my women to meet the doctor. I said, doctor, you should kick me out again. And he laughing. Now we all right. Yeah, we all right. I'm not a perfect, but I understand what is.
アメリカのホスピタルで私 TB だって言われたんですよ。ね、それはやっぱりあまり外人がアメリカ以外の国の人と結婚することをあまり賛成しなかったんですね。で、一時中止になったんですよ。だから私たち結婚する時3年間かかったの。エブリ6 monthsね、ホスピタルでね、それでもう3年経ったら向こうでギブアップしちゃうと思いますよ。 で私日本のお医者さんにも言ったの、そう言われたから。そしたら何ともないっていうの。だからあれはね、やっぱりほら日本人と結婚させたくなかったんじゃない？
In our neighborhood, you'd find your dog poisoned, or you'd have people just kind of make comments about your kind, and I never knew what your kind meant. Sometimes I would say, what do you think that means to you, your kind? But sometimes you don't want to hear and face and have to deal with it. How do you answer back? Wasn't prepared for that. But sometimes I hear that even today.
我哋初初嚟都好困難嘅生活，即係嗰時候嚟到啦，又雖然人哋幫你啦，我哋又即刻要揾工做啊嘛，因為我哋要養啲細路哥啦，有3個細路哥啊嘛，咁我哋又即刻要揾工做，咁嗰啲美國人話幫你揾啦，咁你又唔識英文，咁冇人請你噶嘛，係咪？冇人請你咁佢話好啦，你去你個擔保人嗰度做嗰啲生活雜咁啊，又唔使英文㗎，油係油啊，剪草啊。清潔啊，咩都做啦。咁深華嗰時我哋做咗幾個月啦，咁做完，咁冇得做啦嘛。Winter 嚟咗啦，冬天嚟啦。
唔係一定喺嗰度出世就係咩人，但係你習唔習慣嗰度嘅生活？但係好似我哋出咗嚟呢度，雖然我哋係中國人，但係我哋都係要習慣美國嘅生活，因為冇得俾我哋選擇。即係人咧去到邊度都要適應環境咯。適應環境即係 used to it， 喺邊度都一樣。咁我哋所以先可以喺度生存得，喺度生活咯。
Just get used to it. It's the way to survive. We all have life pains, some of them considerably more traumatic than others. We all have a bad habit of comparing our hardships, claiming to have a harder time than those around us. It's not really something that we can compare easily. Singing and dancing could be the most traumatic experience for someone, depending on their life experience and education. To me, it's kind of painful, but it's not traumatic. Who knew that pantomiming to a children's song could be so emotion-packed? It isn't the pantomiming that gets to me. It's not the singing either. After all, I am a music major, and singing in Sunday school isn't exactly like performing in Carnegie Hall. But it's the language. No one can read and process a foreign language as quickly as their own, but this is not just any foreign language to me. After all, this is supposedly my language. It's an image that I am held to based on my name and my inescapable physical features. I am expected to be a mirror of an image that I have never seen. I am used and denied because of this duality. I am a good photo op for American colleges, but I experience hate for abusing the system. I am refused the chance to correct assumptions about who I am because I am told that it does not matter. I am told to let things go. I am told to just try to speak Korean. I quarrel with myself between letting it all go and refusing to let my personal Babel Tower stay unfinished. It's not a life or death hardship, this is true, but it pains me to admit that my heart will never speak Korean. This language to me is a superficial reminder of something deeper, something you can never learn and never replace once it's gone. The grass is always greener and things could always be worse, but I can't help feeling so jealous of every single person in this room for having had the one thing that I can never have and never learn, your family.
I think it's good for the baby to growing up like with two culture. I think we can mix the good things together. For Thai culture, sometimes they kind of like not open for the kids to give the free idea. Like they cannot say that I do something wrong or that I did something wrong. But for here, they kind of free. They can say, Mom, you did this wrong. And then I have to accept that if I did it wrong.
At home, we have two types of Kim, Nori
you know, and one is Japanese one, which is a little bit kind of sweet, and then the other one is Korean one, which is salt and sesame oil. And so when my kids say they want nori and pointing to Korean, I say, no, that's not nori, that's kim. I would prefer that they marry Asian American. I think having a lot of things in common, I think, is really important in a marriage. Being able to celebrate New Year's in the way the Koreans do it.
Of course, there was always that dating and the boyfriends and all. Now, but some parents I've seen very, very strict. Some of them, even after they've gone to college, they find marriage, arrange marriage in India, they take them there, and most of them have worked out very well. In our case, we can't even finish the sentence, and then she will say, never in my life, you will never have anything to do with us. No, it won't work. More and more people are working, younger people are working. They find their own friends and they get married.
The only problem here for me to teach my kid to know, speak Laos, and Laos cultures is very hard. Since they go to school here, they have friends here, it's pretty hard for me. So I talk to them in Laos, they answer me in English. I'm trying so hard to take them to Laos communities whenever they have a ceremony or celebration, you know, by hearing them talking Laos, hopefully they might learn. That's all the best I can do right now.
I barely communicated with my father. He was always there for me, and there was a time I lived with just him. But because of the language, I never really got to hear a story from my dad or anything about his background or express any frustration I had except for, you know, I needed money for basketball shoes. You know, money is universal language. I don't have any problems communicating with my mom. I think she sometimes does to me. She'll actually say, I don't know how to say it. Those are her exact words quite often. And then I'll say it to me in Chinese anyway, just so she can express it, just for her sake. But it definitely hindered my communication with my dad, without a doubt.
It seems to me it's too much freedom in here. Well, my cultures, they have to learn from the parents, you know, and then they cannot go far away or go anywhere without the permission from the parents. So in here is they go anywhere they want, they do anything they want. And most people, the kids, you know, they have a gun and they kill together. How they do that, you know?
My two daughters, because they're both, you know, part Filipino, part American, they love the food and they love to learn the dances. When my kids were growing up, I taught them the different, not the one with the glass, but all of them learn the bamboo stick dance. My children all learn, you know, the music and whatnot. And even up to now, they really love speaking the language and learning different words.
I really wish my mother had taught me Japanese. For me, it was really hard to feel like I was expressing myself so that she could understand me. And when you're growing up as a child, it's really important that your parents understand, you know, how you feel. And she would be like, no, I know what you're saying, but I couldn't be sure because maybe there weren't English words to tell her, you know, exactly what I was feeling. And so I wish she'd taught us Japanese.
You know, my family worked really hard their whole life. And my mom even told me, you know, they lived up in the mountains and they, you know, they're building construction, so they carry like bricks or stones up the mountain for 3 days. And those little jelly shoes, she said, were popular. She wanted them so bad, but she didn't say nothing. And then after the whole 3 days was done, my harmony just went and bought them for her. And she couldn't believe it, you know, and she said she'd wash them every day really nice and put it up to dry and barely wear them around. And, you know, it makes me sad, of course, who wouldn't be sad, but it makes me happy too, because if they hadn't gone through that, then maybe they wouldn't be the people that they are today, which I think are wonderful, self-driven, incredible people.
The world has so many different types of family. There are families with one mom and one dad, two moms, two dads, and even there are some families with no mom or no dad. Our need for family is so strong, but it is something that we take for granted. Family is the core of our being, the thing that we can never escape from and never lose. There's something about the love of a family that cannot be replaced, no matter how short of a time you had together.
I have one significant mentor in Japan whose name is Dr. Shujiro Yazawa. He visited us a couple of times. He really liked Abraham. He really liked our marriage. He really liked what we were trying to establish, which is very against the norm of Japanese society. Not only Japanese do not like intercultural marriage, but you got married to a black person. That's a very big taboo I had to break, you know, it's society imposed and I have to overcome.
Of course, people, would prefer to get married to people from their own country, those who knows more about their culture. Of course, when you go out into another culture, they feel like the relationship is not going to continue.
Everybody could see we are a good fit. What we were trying to create beyond what the people normally think it's a good marriage. I didn't go back to Japan for a long time, partly because money problem, but partly because my parents are not very happy about my marriage. Abraham and I became essentially the one, and his identity became mine, and my identity became his. Definitely, I'm not a Japanese, I'm not Ethiopian, I'm not American. I am something different beyond that.
Yeah, I'm part of one of the Ithaca 50, so it's definitely a very important part of who I am, but it's not the only part.
Well, it was sort of, it's not necessarily the high moral road to civil rights, but it's where it came from a real deep discomfort with it. The rules were just way too hard to live by, and I didn't want to live by them.
I think the gay-lesbian issues are blown way out of proportion and turned into something that is, can in some ways be looked upon as a circus act, and it's not. I'm really quite ordinary. I take out the garbage, I have cats, it's really, it's really kind of boring, but it's not, it's comfortable.
I don't wake up every morning and say, oh yes, I'm living in an interracial relationship. I wake up every morning and say, did you let the cat out? Where's the soap? Whatever. The normal day-to-day fumbling around, getting up, waking up, putting on my glasses is not really about interrelation. What kind of a relationship? It's, is my teammate is far more important.
My dad was in the service at the time. I asked him a few years ago how he could marry someone who he had fought against, because he had been in Japan. He met my mom and suddenly it didn't matter that he had fought with these people, and to her it was like, love stronger than a lot of things. But my dad and my mom's family have never been close. He's always been the one that changed things, and started this mixing of races and religions in our family. And that's always going to be his, his label, so to speak.
It's the little things in life that get to us the most. At work, we offer support in academic services for underrepresented minorities and international students. Of course, we are affected by the stories of prejudice and hardship they endured, but eventually we return to our own struggles that are in our own minds. We continue to work, we continue to play, and we continue to have frustrations. Just because we do these things, though, does not mean we have gotten over anything. Whatever situation we are in, we must ignore this pain and keep up with life before life leaves us behind. After all, there's no use crying over spilled milk. We have to clean it up. I am a student meandering between music, politics, and Latin American studies. I have taken time to learn Spanish, German, and now Korean. I work as a graphics designer for the Student Academic Journal, and I work with Amnesty International. What privilege to develop my talent and expand my knowledge. Someone in my life did the impossible so that I could live like this. What a waste it would be if I did nothing with this chance. Yet, this is a timeless problem. Everyone is selfish on the inside. We sit around and think about how we eat too much, how we're not number one, and how we don't have the picture-perfect lives that Hollywood tells us we should want. We fill our minds with facts and figures, but we never think of why we're doing it. Many immigrants and children of immigrants have reached to the highest ranks of society, but we often forget where we all came from. I can't say that I've thought of these things and changed my life to be a selfless civil servant that will contribute as much as I can to society. I, like everyone else, am driven by a certain selfish motivation. As an executive board member of Amnesty International, I pushed for Kimmy to come speak because his life was totally changed by economic conditions, kind of like mine. This is what I mean about selfish motivation. I want other people to hear these stories from real people so they will do something. I want people to know what changed my life to become what it became.
Economic background, regardless of religion, each person can do something to save a life.
I hear these things about economics and I just keep thinking about myself. How much different would my life have been if these issues of economic stability and social status were not there for people to talk about?
I practice with lawyers who've been practicing immigration law for much longer, 10 years plus in my office. And they talk about, the years when getting an immigration benefit was like shooting fish in a barrel. In my practice, since I started practicing, it's never been that way. I feel like whenever I have a case, I have to fight for it and make a case for it and not assume at all that it's going to be approved. Assume that I'm going to get an examiner who's looking for something that's wrong. A researcher who's, 15 years post-PhD with a dozen publications. Who are truly, one of the leaders in their field, innovators in their field. And their petition may very well be denied.
So there is a glass ceiling in a sense. Yes, Asian Americans are very bright. They're very involved in all kinds of activities. Most of the time they're associated with science, with engineering, and sometimes with business administration, and more recently with law. But to this day, even now, we're still seeing very few Asian Americans represented in major positions, and it's something that greatly concerns me. We are living in a multiracial, multicultural society, and what that means is that we're going to be crossing boundaries left and right. Every one of our personal choices are always some kind of choice, right? Sometimes not even a choice, something that's kind of predilected to us, right? When that happens, it's going to be shaped by our experiences with race, class, and culture, and gender, right? When people can express their innermost feelings about who they are, and that includes their gender, their race, their biracial or the multiracial identity, that affirms who they are. And if they have no space or opportunity to say that, they deny who they are. They deny it, and it hurts. It hurts so bad.
Regardless of how you see yourself, okay, you are seen in particular ways by others. And it only matters when the way in which others see you bears on your life chances in particular ways. Okay? So in one sense, does it really matter if somebody sees me as this or that? Yes, it does if it prevents me from doing this, if it prevents me from doing that. All right? And if it happens to jar, with my own image of myself, I think that's the duality, that's the discrepancy, that's the tension. Racism or that discrimination or that prejudice has not dissipated. I think it begins to take different kinds of forms. Okay? And this is not to say that some progress hasn't been made. I think Some of the progress, can be attributed to, again, demographic changes. What happens when you have even more Asians, in Ithaca and in Tompkins County? How does that begin to shift the perception of, those who have been living here for, generations or something like that?
I am part of the 1% of the world that is able to attend college. I am part of an even smaller group selected to study fine arts at a school for fine arts. I want to be a flute player, but I want to be a human rights lawyer too. I sit in these classes at school. I look around at all the other students, and I wonder if they know just how privileged they are, if they think about these things. We have all been exposed to shocking images and visited poor districts. We leave with a strong pain of guilt. But then it fades over time and we live on with our own lives. When we stop thinking about these things, we've forgotten everything that we have learned. I, for example, am tempted to retreat back into my own life pain of whether I am Korean or not. Asian Americans are always conflicted between these issues of identity. We are told that we have to learn our culture. At the same time, we are criticized because we focus on such menial details in our lives. We say we don't care, but the conversation keeps popping up, proving that these finer pains, no matter how much we try to rid ourselves of them, still sit in our minds.
You always try to say you're American first, and people try to say that to you, and I was born here. But in reality, when people look at you, you're Chinese. And you can't change that. The New York City Police Department, which is the bigger police department, had 27,000 police officers, and there were only 12 Asian officers. When I first got assigned to my academy squad, I was selected to what squad I was going to be in because of my race. My last name is Liu. I should have been with the L's, and I ended up with the W's and Z's, and I wanted to find out why, and they just said that we'll call your name when we get to it. But in reality, it was because they were divvying up the minorities to make sure that there were minorities in each of the squads. So that's when I realized that I was Asian.
I think I identify more as an American because I haven't really spent time over there. It's more like a kind of a fun bragging point, like, oh, I'm part Asian, and I don't know anything about it, but it impresses some people. When I was in Tokyo, I guess the people actually look like the anime, the platform shoes and the pink hair, and it was very different even than the other Asian countries I visited, but I didn't feel like in essence it was Japanese. I think I would be looking for an older kind of Japan, so I would probably need to go out towards the smaller towns and villages to kind of feel that.
I mean, my mother, I am just as half Korean and half Asian American as any of these other kids. Just because I don't look it doesn't mean that I am, so I think it helps me personally relate to my family history better. I almost had to prove to people, look, I am. A lot of people wouldn't believe me, and that was really difficult for me, I think. But now I think it's different because I think I'm blessed because of that, because now a lot of people don't realize I'm half Korean, so they don't watch what they say as much around me and stuff like that, so I can kind of take a step back and really see what kind of person someone is without them thinking of what they're saying around me.
But when I was younger, I remember not wanting to be who I was, and I think that was more of just not having one group to really identify with. I hated on attendance when the teacher would say, it's Chuck Dong here. I was embarrassed by it. I mean, I was really one of only, not even a handful of Asian kids that I remember. People on their bikes and stuff would write their name. I'd leave mine off. I was just Chuck. I don't hesitate to say I'm Chuck Dong. That's who I am. I do recall, though, way back to elementary level, because people would pick on me. They would make fun of my name, ask me weird questions.
I kind of think of myself like a piece of kimchi that fell from someone's chopsticks and landed on the floor. I kind of liked hanging out there until winter came. I was alone, cold, and probably forgotten by whoever had dropped me.
There was this woman in a neighboring town who was from Korea. Her name was Kim. And we would go visit her. And she would make us Korean food, and my brother would talk to her in Korean. I didn't want to visit her because I didn't want to be like reminded of Korea. And my brother and I would get into arguments when, when he would say things to me like, you're not like them, you're not American, you're Korean, and you should be proud of the fact you're Korean. He basically felt like, from a young age that I had sold out.
I guess as I got older, it's, I understood, where she was coming from. She's an American, she wanted to be an American. And after a while, I just said, that's fine with me too, It can never look American, but I know she was, always a Korean looking, and we were always gonna look alike forever, so it really didn't matter.
I had this anger toward my father for putting us up for adoption, thinking, well, if he had straightened himself out, he could have raised us. In my young mind, I was thinking, how hard can it be to raise kids, And so yeah, I was really angry with him, upset with him for not putting forth the effort to raise us and instead, shipped us off to the United States.
Back then, I don't really remember feeling any resentment towards him for being us adopted here. And now that I'm older, I think, he did a lot just by giving up his kids. And I know it would be very hard for me to do that. So I guess obviously he wanted probably a better life for us, and so that's the way I look at it now. I don't hold any bad feelings toward him at all.
I never knew my biological mother, and it's just always wondering about her, like what. Do I look like her? Do I have her personality? What is it, My brother says that I look a lot like my father. But then I think, what part of me is like, it's like my mother. And there'll always be that part, I think, that wonders.
I usually try hard not to think about these things, so it's kind of strange for me to be going to Korea now. I'm not even sure why I'm going, because I've constantly felt like all the other kimchis told me I'm not good enough to call myself kimchi after I fell on the floor. I hate them though, because they have never been outside of their bowl. They don't know what it's like. I guess this is kind of like my chance to peek back inside. I'm not really worried about what I missed inside the bowl, but I can't help thinking that maybe I'll find out where those chopsticks ended up. I've always wondered whether they forgot about me or just got a new piece from the bowl.
I look in the mirror and I see an Asian face looking back at me. And that's definitely a reminder. Every morning when I get up, and try to wash myself up, I'm looking in the mirror, brushing my teeth, and I see the Asian face looking back at me every day. I actually drew a picture, and it's hanging at home. It's a picture of a white woman smoking a cigarette, drinking a cup of coffee with her foot on the coffee table. And the title of it is called Self-Portrait, because it looks like a child that Charles and Ruth might have produced had they had another child. It's a self-portrait of me, of how I feel on the inside. I think the strangest reaction was, "Oh yeah, I can see you." And it's like, no you can't. You don't know what I'm talking about. You don't have a clue. But yeah, that's one of the ways that I was able to put it into perspective for myself, in my mind. I went to an event, a Korean dinner that was being held up at Annabelle Taylor over at Cornell. And it was a bunch of grad students and Cornell students that had come together and were throwing a potluck. And they had all the Korean dishes out there, It's just, and Korean kids whizzing all over the place, yammering in Korean, like la 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 la, loud music, balloons, everything. It was just, and then I just kind of like stepped into it. And I was like, oh God, I think I'm on a different planet. It was very overwhelming. And I just kind of like, tried to hide behind my parents, who were going, come on, these are your people. One of the first times I was trying to, actively go out there and, pull into my contacts and try to do some research into the family heritage. I expressed this to my mom, and she was like, and she felt threatened. Whatever will be, whatever turns up, we'll deal with it as it needs to, as we need to. She knows who raised me, the home that I grew up in. But yeah, it's a real hard thing to to give up years and years of one's life, and well, I'm going to try to find my family. It can easily be interpreted as you're not important anymore. Everything that you've done has been a waste, and that's not true. It's not about that. It's about this is also part of who I am.
In a positive light, as a piece of kimchi on the floor, I did get a pretty decent view. All these issues of identity get blown out of proportion, and people simply label me with a cultural identity process. But I don't care about culture. Korean is just part of who I am. I know this in my head, and it makes perfect logic, but in my heart, well, that's a different story. The chopsticks never found me, and I landed at JFK to a new family. I was just a little baby, hanging out in Burger King before driving to my new home. I don't even remember my old home or anything else in Korea. This absence of memory feels like a stab wound in my heart sometimes. I have felt it for as long as I can physically remember. I realized I was adopted when I was really young. My family went to the beach, and I noticed that everyone's skin was light, but mine wasn't. Ever since then, I've tried to forget about being adopted. I had no answers and no one to ask. I won awards, I was a class nerd, and like all other kids, I tried to make my parents proud of me. Maybe I did, but I never felt like I was part of their family. Even though my brother was adopted, I saw them as a family that made sense. No one picked him in ROTC to say the salute for the Asian War Memorial Services. Through this, everyone always commented on how grateful I must feel. But even in the moments when I should have been proud of myself, I only ever felt empty because something was missing.
And the 2003 Honor Band of America concert. The Honor Band of America is a collection of some of the finest high school musicians from across the nation.
Music was my outlet to say things without anyone else knowing what I was saying. I was normal on the outside, but I was filled with so much grief on the inside. That piece of kimchi was still dropped on the floor. Life, though, told me to smile when I felt heartbroken and to say I was thankful when I felt abandoned.
All the cultural divide. So let's listen to some of the story that college student Sarah Kessler contributed to this book.
One day, while scouring the classroom for the glittery razzmatazz crayon that a little girl needed to finish her project, I felt a small hand tap my shoulder and heard a little voice ask me, "Excuse me, are you Chinese?" Surprised that this little girl had the courage to ask, I replied, "No, I'm Korean," and gave her a little smile to let her know it was all right to ask questions. She turned to her friend, who asked her what I had said. The words she said affected me more than any criticism, insult, or compliment I had ever received before in my life. She whispered back, "I think she said she's a crayon." I wrote a story as an admissions essay, and eventually it was published with Yolanda King. It's not that I'm ungrateful, but in these moments, I wish that my birth mother could see me. I want to thank her, and at the same time, I want to let myself hate Koreans for what happened to my family. I've been searching for something that would make me forget these thoughts of Korea. I told myself there were so many bigger things in the world for me to think about, so why waste my time? But now, I find myself going to Korea by choice. Arriving in Korea was rather unceremonious. It's kind of childish, but it was somehow a little disappointing to see similar sights around me. Regardless, I am here. My life in Korea is not much different from home. I don't know what I was expecting. I wash up in the morning like any other day, but now I wonder if I would have a different morning routine had I grown up here. Seeing myself in the mirror reminds me of Suzanne. The Asian face in the mirror couldn't be more of a reminder of my connection to Korea than now. I grab my books and sit down to study like I would at home. Studying a foreign language isn't anything new, but studying Korean seems to be really frustrating now that I'm here. Lots of things seem to be foreign, but old. It's strange to be somewhere completely new, yet eerily familiar on so many levels. I've taken these small things in my daily life for granted. I've always assumed that it was just the way life was. The more time I spend in Korea, the more I realize that I can't just learn superficial culture and language to call myself Korean. In some ways, that's perfectly logical. Everyone experiences this feeling in another culture, feeling like an outsider. In other ways, that is devastatingly disappointing. Part of me thinks that I should not feel like an outsider in so many different ways. Even with music, I feel so lost. As a music student, I always assumed music was a universal language, like math. I visited the Yonsei Traditional Music Club to learn about Korean music. I was excited to learn, but this musical experience is rather frustrating. I can't read the music, and I can't give any kind of critique or feedback. I can only play my flute. Somehow, my reactions to people here are really interesting. It's like I'm socially awkward and have never spoken to another human being before. For any other foreign language, I can just say, "Hey, can you explain again? I didn't understand all of what you said." But here, it's so tempting and easy to play along or just give up when I don't understand. All of these new concepts, new words, new sounds of music, it's so overwhelming. Slowly, I'm realizing that there are some things that I will never get, no matter if I decided to move to Korea for the rest of my life.
Okay. Oh, too hard. Too hard.
In this kind of moment, being surrounded by other Korean Koreans, I feel like a 5-year-old child that is learning how to walk, really, really late. There's no way I could be expected to know any of this, but in some way, something inside of me is upset that I cannot do all of this already.
Sorry.
Whenever I learn something new in music, I'm usually so excited, but I feel so embarrassed and ashamed for no logical reason. Music is supposed to be my forte, but here I feel like I'm worlds away. I am playing a Western flute, and she is playing the Korean flute. Somehow, that says a lot to me.
오, 봤어. 오, 신기하다.
In the same way that I acted strangely around the Yonsei University students, I act differently around my roommates. Being Korean in Korea is like a fun facade. It's easy to blend in on the outside, especially when everyone knows me by Jihei and not Sarah. A few times, I heard that I had fooled people to think that I had grown up in Korea. But for every moment of happiness I get from pretending I am Korean here brings 300 moments of sadness in my heart. I know that I am not who I am acting like. You might say it's just personality, but I can clearly see a difference between my roommates and myself. They are among the most loving people that I've met, always willing to help poor Jihei, who couldn't even make simple conversation in Korean. No matter how close I become with them, though, I will never understand the subtleties of being raised in Korea. But why should I feel bad about that? Even though I tell myself this, I've spent so much time trying to lose who I am to become someone I wish I could have been.
잘 주말이 해. 너 나한테 뭐라고 할 거 아니야. 너 나한테 귀엽다고 할 게 아니야. 너는 so cute. 너는 콩리안이야 콩리안. 야 어떻게 잘 주말이 잘 주말 잘.
I guess in a way, it's natural for me to want to bond completely with this place I supposedly have ties to. Usually, I wouldn't care too much about visiting these kinds of folk villages or reenactment villages. But part of me feels like I started a 400-meter dash, fell down, and now I'm trying to catch up to the group. I feel like I need to learn everything as quickly as possible so that it can complete the other half of the picture that makes the whole me. I want to internalize everything that I see so that I can claim it as my own experience. I want to believe that learning these things will make me feel better. Sometimes it seems like a fun game, something that I can do to make myself feel unique from others. Sometimes it makes me feel more like the person I think I should have been. But then there's this little part of me that still feels alone in both worlds. Even though everything is new, some things seem oddly familiar. Whenever I eat new food in Korea, I seem to like it a lot. Why do I like it? Do I really like what I'm eating? Or am I still trying to convince myself that all these things were always a part of my life? That I was never that falling kimchi on the floor? I feel like I'm a little girl again, learning things about another life that I almost lived. I don't know if I'm just a daydreamer or if it's just really hot today, but I can't stop imagining what my life would have been like. It's painful to hear how much family ties have played a part in Korean history, yet somehow so many of us were left out. As I learn all of the history, I wonder what it would have been like to experience it with her by my side. If I were just a typical tourist to this country, I would probably just sit back and let myself be entertained. But I'm not just a typical tourist, and this is not just any country. Everything here makes me question everything about who I really am. Everything is a trigger for something else. I can't even just watch this wedding because it makes me wonder if she would have kept me if she had been married. In a way, it makes me hate Koreans so much for for allowing those social statuses determine whether my family was the right kind that should stay together or not. But I guess at some point, I have to try to cross the bridge, no matter how much it will hurt to leave something behind. Adoption agency. Well, here I am. I never actually thought that I would go through with this, but it seems like I am. I'm so nervous and unprepared for this meeting. Kessler?
Sarah, what is the Chihejon?
I guess it's just for fun. It's so surreal to see the original copies of the documents that I have read over and over again all of my life. The original documents that someone had written with a pen. I feel so close and so far away now. This is like the doorway to my old life that I have been dying to enter since that day on the beach when I realized I looked different from my family. I have never felt like Korea was such a tangible part of my own reality until right now.
Expect that so many grown-ups have to come back to Korea to the search diverse family. So honestly, we didn't prepare about this situation.
So then about my birth mother, do you have any information?
Unfortunately, we couldn't meet your birth mother at the hospital. She left the hospital already when we go to the hospital. So it's very difficult to find her present address because we don't have any ID number. I'm very sorry.
Even though I knew this story all my life, it's so hard to hear it from the people who are here. I guess I had been in denial that it was possible that this was the end of the road. It's just paper, and these are just pictures. But something is so powerful about looking at this original, faded ink. All the caseworkers, the doctors, all of them had seen me or held me right before they signed these papers.
So sad.
Before they signed these papers for all of these files, we were all Koreans. In a way, I kind of belong here. This is kind of my home.
You're so little. So little.
People don't really understand why I'm so emotional about being adopted. They always tell me that since I don't remember anything, I'm just exaggerating a manifestation in my mind. But if that's true, tell me that you can look at these babies and feel nothing. Everything happened so quickly that I don't even remember agreeing to meet my foster mother. Seeing more tangible things is so confusing. Even though I was trying to act like someone else with my roommates or to other Koreans, this is the moment I really wish I were.
몇 년 만이야지. 아기 때 가가지고 지금 너무 이쁘게 많이 컸네. 한국에 오면 경기고 아메리칸 네임
Sarah.
세라고요. 반갑습니다. 한국말도 하네. 한국말. She said she took care of you.
Looking back on moments like this, I always want to kick myself for not having done something differently. I wanted to learn Korean to be able to meet people from Korea that are connected to me and speak with them. But ironically, they are the people that I am terrified of speaking to.
지난 2월 달에 와서요. 저기 연세대학교에서 한국어 지금 대학생이에요. So what
I felt so much love and care pouring from this family, even though they were not with me long. It's amazing how people can affect you so much, even when they're in your life for such a short period of time.
어머니가 자기를 그렇게 잘 키워주셔서 너무 감사하대요. 그리고 애 키우는 게 얼마나 어려운 일인지 자기가 안다고. 네. Because sometimes we cannot find the foster mother because they move to another house and we cannot know the rest.
I can't really find words to say what this moment is like. Somehow, I have a feeling that this is the closest I will ever get to my mother. I want to hold on to this moment for as long as I can. Whenever I'm sad, it seems to be raining. In my heart, it means something. In my head, it's just rain. It rained the entire 4-hour drive to Pohang, my birth city. Here, my mother's steps and mine will finally meet at the hospital where I was born.
경미에 관한 전화를 받고 난 후에 저희 병원에서 여러 가지 서류를 갖다 조사를 해보니까 그 당시에 경미가 태어났을 때 기록은 없어졌어요. 안타깝게 없었는데 당시에 있는 간호원들이 아직까지도 근무를 하고 있기 때문에 그 간호원들의 기억을 갖다 되살리려고 그랬는데도 기억하는 간호원이 없어요. 경미가 태어날 그 당시에는 한국의 경제 사정이 굉장히 열악했었어요. 그래서 경미 엄마는 본인이 키우는 것보다도 훨씬 나은 환경 속에서 양궁을 만나서 훌륭하게 크고 훌륭한 사회인이 되도록 그렇게 부모는 바랐기 때문에 아마 입양을 원했을지도 몰라요, 부모는.
At first, it didn't register that I was in the same place where I was born, and it didn't register that this doctor was one of the few people to ever see my mother and I together. I made my first cries in this room, and I saw light for the first time in this room. She was there. As he explained the process, I tried hard to imagine her, but I couldn't see her at all. The last time my mother and I were together was in this room. People always say the happiest moment of birth is when you get to take your baby home. I can't imagine what she felt like to leave without me. Standing here now, I wonder if she remembers that time as vividly as I can imagine it.
경미가 한국에 끈을 가지고 있는 것은 태어난 이 집하고 또 경미를 팔아준 의사인 내뿐이야. 그래서 경미가 힘들고 어렵고 뭐 할 때 내가 친딸처럼 그렇게 보호해줄 그런 생각은 있어.
Since I'm leaving Korea tomorrow, I wanted to have one moment to relax and see the lights of Seoul one last time. I guess I should be enjoying myself like everyone else around me, but it's hard just to forget about whatever I have seen. There are physical beauties all over the world, but when you find the place with that pure inner beauty, you never want to leave. If I stand still and breathe slowly, this place is exactly that. I was so frustrated about being so close to all the answers, yet so far away. I've been focusing on all the wrong things. Hearing my English name used to make me so sad and ashamed because my name didn't fit how I looked or how I felt. But trying to change my language or my name won't ever change anything about the person I really am. After all, it's just a name.
My name is Carolyn Seungwon or Sungwon Lee.
My name is Mimi Dong.
My name is Chuck Dong.
My name is Mark Strain.
Sheila Kisseloff.
My name is Bong Sen.
My name is Meren Sen.
My name is Jagat Sharma.
My name is Hanyoung Shinagawa.
My name is Suzanne Schwartz.
I'm Mary White.
Maybe my name isn't important, but it has come to mean so much. I came to leave all this mixed baggage behind, but I think I went shopping instead. I don't really want to leave, yet I never want to come back again. Somewhere so close, yet so far away, there is someone who will never forget me as Kyungmi. I have so many dreams and goals like anyone else, but I hope I can learn to put myself aside to understand the love that she gave me and be proud to have that wonderful love in my blood.
And I will end by saying that my favorite song is the What a Wonderful World by Louis Armstrong, because it just really says a lot about my philosophy in life.
Don't take your background as a sort of weakness, and be comfortable who you are. That is in the beginning of all the wonderful things.
It's in the very act of working together that you discover common ground, common issues, common goals.
No matter how different we all are, we're, basically we're all very much alike.
And I'm hoping that Ithaca can serve as a template of what could happen in other parts of the country.
Create a community where we're respectful of each other, continue to educate Asians as well as non-Asians about the heritage, the culture that we come from.
Everybody got here somehow, and everybody has an incredible story that they have on their own. And I just don't think that people look around them enough and get to know people enough and what they experience.
I would hope that we'd all take a little piece of that with us wherever we go and say, I've learned something today, and I met some people from different places, and they're great, and this is what I can take from that experience.
Between the two hills is a city full of diversity in many forms. Starting all the way back with pioneer grape growers in the 1870s, the Asian American population in Ithaca has created a distinct trademark for the area. But these people cannot be seen as simply Asian or Asian Americans. They are individuals who embody times of triumph over personal hardship in a society in which they were not always welcome. Together, they have created a vibrant community of cultures and traditions from around the world, making this small city unique. The Asian American population of Ithaca shows a character and resilience like none other. No matter how painful life feels, we have all learned how to pick up our own spilled milk. In a baby's dream, a butterfly flies away, leaving only sunlight behind. The baby wakes from her dream now to see sunlight filtering to the floor from a hole in the window. Baby laughs to see it, to touch it with her cheeks, and to feel it. If mother were also like baby, then the world would be wonderful.